All right, it is 2 o'clock Eastern time, so we will go ahead and get started. Before we dive in, can I get some quick thumbs up emoji reactions or thumbs up in the comments to make sure you guys can hear me okay? Perfect. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our TravelJoy Workshop for Automations, a focused deep dive on how to turn on and customize automations in the TravelJoy platform. My name is Heather. I will be your host today, and I am joined in the audience by fellow joy makers Marissa, Chelsea, Cody, and Lenore, who will be helping to monitor the chat and answer your questions throughout the webinar. Now, speaking of questions, we welcome your questions, and we do plan to answer some of them live at the end of this webinar. So please make sure that you put your questions in the questions tab, which is found in the bottom right corner of your screen. You will also see the team help answer some of those questions during the webinar. So a big thank you in advance to those joy makers for the assistance today. Now, this webinar will move a bit quickly, so please note that you will receive a recording of this session by email after its conclusion. You'll be able to pause, rewind, and rewatch the recording to really take in what we go over today and follow along with the recording to turn on your own automation settings in your TravelJoy account. That replay will also include the chat and the questions tab so you can access any of the resources shared during the session. You may hear me repeat that this session is recorded a few times throughout the webinar for any of the folks who join a little late, but please feel free to remind any fellow agents you may see in the chat if they happen to ask. Now, we want to make sure that you leave this webinar feeling confident and empowered to utilize all of the automations available to you in TravelJoy. So, along with the recording of the webinar, you'll want to make sure that you bookmark all of the links that are going to be in the chat, and I'll be sharing throughout the webinar. You can bookmark them, and like I said, you can reference them in the recording, or you can bookmark them now live during the event. The guide that I'll be giving you will be going to our TravelJoy Help Center, which is a great place to reference if you feel like you ever need to revisit any area for more details. But if you can't find the answer, you can always reach out to our team at hello@traveljoy.com, or you can use the blue chat button in the bottom right corner of your TravelJoy account. So let's now get into the good stuff. Okay, so the automations tab is really about getting time back. And for a lot of advisors, that time adds up faster than you'd expect. Every payment reminder that you're manually sending, every proposal that you're chasing down, every just checking in email to a client that hasn't responded. So much of that can be automated in TravelJoy. So you can focus on actually building trips and serving your clients. And it's not just about saving time, it's about consistency too. When your automations are set up well, nothing slips through the cracks. Your clients feel taken care of, and your workflow just runs smoother. The best part is that once these are configured, you don't have to think about them again. Your clients are getting timely, professional communication from you, whether you're at your desk, on a site inspection, or enjoying a well-deserved vacation. By the end of this webinar, you're going to walk away with more time, more consistency, and a workflow that practically runs itself, letting TravelJoy do the heavy lifting for you. So with that, I'm going to switch my screens so that we can follow along in my demo account. And for those of you guys here that were with me last week, I'm still kind of recovering from a bit of a spring cold. So if I have to break away for any coughs or occasional drinks of water, I do apologize. This spring cold is definitely sticking with me for quite a bit. So thank you for your patience. I apologize in advance if I have some coughing on screen. It's definitely sticking with me. So thank you. And I am going to start with a drink of water. And I also want to ask, can I get another round of thumbs up if you guys can see my demo account? Okay. Perfect. All right. Just want to make sure everything is looking good here. Perfect. And I'm going to get this chat ready because, like I said, we're going to have a lot of guides coming your way. So in the demo account, we are going to head under your settings and automation. This is where we are focusing all of our attention today. And our first area is payment reminders. That's where we're starting at the top. This one is a game changer that continuously pays off on all of your trips. So I'm going to put our first guide in the chat now. There we go. Like I said, these all go to our help center, so you can either bookmark them now or you can bookmark them later when you get the recording after the session has concluded. The chat and the questions tab will be available to you, so you can access the links then and bookmark them then if you don't want to grab them now and just focus on what's on screen. But there's our first link, so we will dive right in. All right, so payment reminders. By default, when you have a payment schedule set up on an invoice, TravelJoy will send you a reminder email 7 days before a payment is due. That email will have a button that says View Payment Reminder, which opens up to a pre-written email that you can manually send to your client that will have a link to their invoice. But we can do better. Instead, what you can do on this page is you can switch to this automated option right here. You can see all of these settings now opened up. And what happens when you click on this automated option is TravelJoy then skips the middleman, meaning you, and this sends that reminder directly to your client's inbox. No action is needed on your end ever again. You can also customize here which email template you want to use, what time of day it goes out, how many days in advance you want to send the reminder. And if you still want a heads up to your inbox that it went out, you can check the box down here that says, send me a copy of emails sent to the clients. Now, a couple of extra things also worth knowing. You can also set up multiple reminders for a single payment. Maybe you want to send one out for a week out in advance and send out another one a few days before the payment is due. Just click on Add a reminder message. You can set up the additional timing, send a different template if you want, or the same template, and you're done. You can add up to 8 reminders in total. And if you toggle the timing from before to after, this same setup works for any past due reminders too. You'll just want to make sure you change the template to a past due payment language instead. When you click on Save right down here on the right-hand side, TravelJoy will ask whether you want to apply your new settings to your existing payment reminders or just to any new payments going forward on your invoices. And that's completely up to you if you want to use them on old payments or new payments, up to you. All right, next, let's look at client follow-ups. We've got another guide coming to you in the chat. There you are. All right, so there are actually 3 types of automated follow-ups you can utilize with your clients. So we're going to take a look at them one at a time. Message follow-ups are the first one. This one lives in the message composer on your trips, and it's not actually on this page. And you can find more details on how this one works in the guide that I just shared in the chat. When you're drafting a message to a client in the Messages tab of a trip, you will see a follow-up option at the bottom of the message. You can check that box, choose how long you want to wait, and pick the follow-up email template. If the client hasn't replied to your message within that time frame, TravelJoy will automatically send that follow-up message for you. One important note is that if any client on that trip takes an action, meaning they reply, they approve a proposal, or they pay an invoice before that scheduled follow-up runs, it will automatically cancel that follow-up message for you. Before you use that feature, you want to make sure that you have a follow-up email template ready to use under your templates and email page. Now, when we actually look at this page under client follow-ups, we have the proposal and form reminders, and both of these will work the same way. When turned on, TravelJoy automatically reminds clients to review and approve a pending proposal or complete a form if they haven't finished it yet. For each one, you can set which template you want to use, the time of day to send it, and the number of days after sending. The default templates that are assigned to it are called the proposal follow-up default and the form follow-up default. Make sure that you take a look at these and you've edited the language in both of the email templates before turning these on, just to make sure that they sound like you and the language fits your brand. All right, also on the automations page, you will find a few settings that respond automatically when a client takes action on their end. I'll be putting a guide in the chat for you that talks about the automation settings specifically for after a client submits an authorization or a payment, coming down here under client actions. And this is also a good time to share for those who joined a little bit late, a reminder that this entire webinar is recorded. You will be getting a copy of the webinar recording. And in that recording, it will also include the chat and the questions tab, and includes all of the resources shared in the questions and chat tab, so you can bookmark the links that are being shared. So I've got that link coming to you now about client actions. All right, so like I mentioned, the first two here under client actions are regarding payments. You can set a default confirmation email to go out the moment a client submits a direct payment or an authorization. You can toggle it on and choose the email template that you want to be sent out. This is a great way to reassure clients that their submission went through without you having to send anything manually to them to let them know. You can also set this per each individual invoice if you want to use a different specific template for any specific trips. Similarly, right below these two invoice options, we have a proposal option to automatically send out a confirmation email automatically when a client approves a proposal. And finally, there's a setting that will automatically move a trip to a specific dashboard stage when a client makes a payment. So if you want paid trips to move into a booked or a deposit paid stage without you touching it, you can set that up right here. For example, let's say trip booked on my dashboard, and that's saved automatically. These settings together mean that client actions can trigger the right communication and keep your dashboard organized, all without any manual work on your end. Now we are getting into the workflow automation, and this is where things get really exciting for advisors who manage a lot of trips on their dashboard. So next, we have a guide coming to you in the chat thread about the first setting we will cover, and I'll be sharing another guide coming shortly afterwards. There we go. Okay, so excuse me, I'll grab another quick drink of water. Okay. In the trips section, we have the automatically add tasks to all new trips from this task list template toggle. It's a bit of a mouthful, but once you turn it on and choose a task list template from the dropdown, once you save it, every new trip that you create, as long as it has a start and end date in the trip details, this will automatically have that specific task list imported into the trip and applied automatically. Let's see what that looks like. All right, there's an example for Europe adventures that saved successfully. All right, so this is perfect if you happen to have a standard workflow that applies to every booking and you want to use that same task list with, let's say, reminders for you, automated emails or forms that you want to send out to the client, or a combination of both. It's a great time saver for any kind of task list you want to use on all of your clients. Now, right below that is a newer setting, automatically add tasks when specific tags are added to the trips. And I'm going to be putting that new guide in the chat. And this guide actually comes with a video training as well. All right, there is that. Perfect. Okay, so here is how that works. When you come to this setting, you create a tag. Let's say, for example's sake, we use the tag Disney, and you can link it to a specific task list template. And for my example, I have a task list template here called Magical Park Adventure Tasks. So I'll type Disney here, Magical Park Adventure Tasks, and I will add trip tag automation. All right. So now that I have that in my library, whenever I add this tag to a trip while editing the trip details in the tag section, TravelJoy will automatically import this designated task list into the trip for me. This is super powerful because not every trip is exactly the same. You might have one workflow for cruises, a different one for all-inclusives, and another for, let's say, theme park itineraries. You build those task lists once, create the corresponding tags here, and from then on, the right workflow drops into the right trip automatically once you add those tags into the trips. Now, right below that is a More Settings toggle in the light gray. Once we open that, it expands and reveals several options that are going to be on by default, which control how your trips are categorized when you use the waiting on filters that are on your dashboard. This is based on recent activity from you or your client in the planning process, like when you send a proposal or when the client pays an invoice. Most advisors will leave these settings as is, but it's still good to know that they're here if you ever want to take a look at them in your own account and make any changes. Now, this next area is a small but a handy one to be aware of. We don't have a dedicated help guide for this specific setting, but I'm dropping a link in the chat to our guide that is schedule an email to be sent later. It's a great companion if you want to dig deeper into scheduling messages. All right, so like I said, it's a simple setting, but it's worth knowing about. Under this tasks section, what you can do here is change the default time for tasks and scheduling messages. Whatever time you set here becomes the default send time for any time TravelJoy sends an automated message or fires off a scheduled task to your client. So if you've set a payment reminder to go out 3 days before a due date, or you've scheduled a follow-up email through a task, this is the time of day that it will actually land in your client's inbox, unless you've set a specific time elsewhere. It's a small setting, but thoughtful to configure. If your clients are mostly in a certain time zone, or you just want messages going out at a professional hour rather than, let's say, when you're working maybe at 3 a.m., You can set it here once and it will apply across the board to all of your messages that are scheduled. All right, we are now rounding out the page with the email section at the very bottom here. There are just 2 settings here, but both of them are ones you'll be really glad to know about. So here is the very last guide that I'd like to share about setting up the out-of-office email responder. All right, so on the emails, are you happening to be going on vacation soon or maybe attending a conference? This setting is one for you. In the email section, you will find the out of office responder toggle. When you turn it on and select an email template, TravelJoy will automatically send that message to any client who reaches out to you while you're away. Now, before you turn this on, make sure that you've created your own out of office email template under the templates and email page. TravelJoy doesn't have a default message for this one, so it needs to come from you. While this setting is on, a yellow banner will appear at the top of your TravelJoy account at all times to remind you that this setting is turned on. So when you're back and you're ready to jump into your inbox and reply to clients, just make sure you come back to this settings page to turn off that out of office responder. Now, right below that out of office responder is our last setting that's relatively new, and a lot of advisors are loving it. It's helping them manage their workflow perfectly. This is the toggle on daily email summary. When you turn this on, you can set the time of day that you want this to deliver into your inbox. When you turn it on every morning at that time, you'll receive an email summary directly from TravelJoy. And that email will include your tasks that are due that day, any unread messages from your active trips or groups, any recent payments made from your clients, and many more things. It's a quick snapshot to help you get started in the day and keep you organized without you having to log in and check everything manually in your TravelJoy account. It's just like having your own personal assistant telling you exactly what needs your attention first thing in that day from your TravelJoy account. All right, we did it. That wraps up everything that I wanted to cover on TravelJoy Automations today. Thank you all so much for sticking with me through this full session. And if you learned something new, please feel free to share it in the chat. I will be taking another quick sip of water to read through some of the questions. I do see a few people that had to either step away or joined a little late. And so I do want to remind you that the entire session was recorded. If you registered and joined, you will receive a copy of the entire recording to your email that you used to register. So you can rewatch this at any time. That recording will include all of the resources that came in the chat and in the questions tab, so you can rewatch it, you can pause, rewind, you can look at only a specific section if you wanted to, but you can most importantly look at all of the resources and the guides that were shared in the chat, so you can bookmark those, you can peruse them and look at any additional trainings if needed. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that quick drink of water, take a look at the questions tab, see if anything that we need to revisit and maybe demonstrate on screen for you guys. So thank you for your patience, and thank you to the Joy Makers for helping answer some of these questions as they came in. Okay, let's see. So someone did mention if someone skips a payment or is late for a payment, if we go back up to the very top to the payment reminders and the automation settings, if you turn on the automatically send payment reminders to clients, not only can you send payment reminders before the payments are due, but if you use this last setting right here, and I'm going to zoom in, so bear with me, it's going to move a little quickly. that'll go for me. Whoops, wrong way. Oh, the Zoom is not working for me. There we go. Okay. So at the very end, you have the option of, the date, the time, the template, the time, how many days, and then either before or after a payment is due. So if you have an automation set and you want to let the client know that they are late for their payment, you can turn it on for a specific number of days after a payment is due. So if a client has skipped a payment, if let's say 3 days have passed and their payment has not been submitted, you can set that for 3 days after a payment is due. And you'll want to make sure you go under your templates and emails and you create your own template, your own email template of whatever language you want to send to your client to let them know, hey, your payment is now past due. Just a friendly reminder that this payment is due, but it's now past due, yada, yada, yada. And then you can select that email template right here to send out to them this many days after that payment has, is due or was due and it's now past. However, if they've already made that payment, this automation, of course, will not trigger. TravelJoy is smart enough to know that as long as the payment has already been made, this will not go out to the client for that specific payment. And these will happen for every single payment on every single invoice based on the payment schedule. Let's see if it'll zoom out again. There we go. Now we're full screen. Someone asked if this works for credit card authorization forms. So this specifically won't work for authorization forms. However, you can still utilize this setting down here, the client follow-ups, because the credit card authorization form is in fact a form from TravelJoy. So you can still use client hasn't submitted a form. So you can do the form follow-up a certain number of days, but you won't be able to utilize this specific setting because these settings are only going to apply to invoices and payments that are on an invoice payment schedule. Great question. Let's see. We have time for just a couple more. So some folks are asking about how you can edit the templates that you utilize, so on and so forth. So we did mention in a couple of places, the email templates to use, the task list templates to use. So a lot of the automation settings, rely on selecting what templates you're picking. So you'll pick the name of the templates on this page for your automations, like the task list templates to import based on tags, or the task list template to import into all of your new trips, or the email templates to send out for your follow-ups. When you want to look at those templates or see those templates, create those templates, edit those templates, you need to come over here on the left-hand side under your templates page. And then you can look at your email templates here, your form templates here, and your task list templates over here. So again, like I mentioned earlier, for these follow-up emails, those are going to be default email templates that come preloaded in your TravelJoy account. So they're going to have pretty basic default language in there that's just going to be pretty simple. So if you're new to TravelJoy or you haven't taken a look at those yet since this new feature was released, you might want to head under your templates and emails to look at the proposal follow-up or the form follow-up. Look at the language, see if you want to edit it. We can pull up one now just to take a quick peek. But you can look at those and edit it. Here's the form follow-up, for example. You want to edit it to make sure that it fits your kind of language, make sure that it fits your brand, and it's the kind of language that you want your clients to see to fit, your agency and the vibe that you're going for. So there's an example message there for the form follow-up there. And it's the subject, quick check-in about your trip form. So this is what would go out if you turned on the form follow-up, if they haven't completed a form and you turned on the follow-up. So after a certain number of days, you wanted them to get a reminder email to complete the form. This is the language that would go out. All right. Thank you guys so much for all of the amazing questions that came in. Again, as a reminder, The recording of this webinar will be emailed to you in your email inbox that was used to register for this webinar. So whatever email you use to sign up and to log into this webinar, that is where you will get the recording of this webinar that you can rewatch, and it will include all of the chat and question tabs and all of the resources in there, so you can rewatch it at any time. Thank you all so much for joining today. We will have workshops mostly every Thursday with rotating topics. Please feel free to reach out and provide any feedback you have about the workshop. We're super excited about offering these to you guys, and we hope to see you in the future for more sessions. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday and have a great early weekend. Take care, everybody.